Have you ever actually stopped to wonder how humanity's collective memory is preserved? We rely on archives to collect and maintain vast amounts of human knowledge going all the way back to ancient times. But it's really not just about hoarding old papers in a dusty room. There's an exact, rigorous science to it. Okay, let's dive in. We'll be mapping out our agenda. We're going to start with the archivist's dilemma, then unpack the key differences between three foundational principles: respect des fonds, preserving original order, and the principle of provenance. Finally, we'll wrap up with reconstructing our past. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the archivist's dilemma. I really want you to put yourself directly in the shoes of an archivist for a second. Imagine a huge delivery has just arrived at your desk. What exactly goes on in your head when you're first handed a completely new and honestly, potentially chaotic collection of materials? Basically, you're staring at a messy box of historical records. The absolute dilemma is this: how do you treat this collection so that the context of its creation and acquisition are treated with absolute respect, while at the exact same time preserving its ultimate value for the archive? You obviously can't just toss it all on a shelf. You need some hard and fast rules. Which brings us to Section 2, respect des fonds. This is the first of our big three principles, and it establishes the who. Simply put, respect des fonds is the principle dictating that records of different origins must be kept separate according to their creator. They have to be kept in the units in which they were originally accumulated. If you want to simplify it even further, it's all about the macro-level boundary. It's having the ultimate respect for the specific creator of those records. And this isn't a new concept at all. The principle of respect des fonds was actually first developed in France following the French Revolution. By keeping one creator's items completely isolated from the items of others, archivists successfully protect the content, the structure, the integrity, and the deep, deep context of those specific records. So what exactly is a fonds? Well, think of it like a conceptual container. It holds the total body of records created by an organization, a family, or an individual through an organic process that reflects their specific functions. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept. If an author compiles a collection of their letters, that specific compiled collection is the fonds. Now, keep in mind that different countries use alternative terms depending on their specific archival policies. In the UK, you might hear the term archive group, while the US National Archives uses record group. While they're very similar to a fonds, it's just worth noting that they carry slightly different definitions and connotations based on regional rules. All right, moving right along to Section 3, preserving original order. So while respect des fonds focuses on the external boundary, the who, original order shifts our focus to the how. It deals with the micro-level internal structure. It refers to maintaining the exact organization and sequence of records as they were established by the creator of those records. It is definitely not about how the archivist thinks it should be organized. It's strictly about how the creator inherently organized it. To understand why this is so absolutely critical, just imagine a series of letters sent by a soldier on the front lines back to his family. If those letters were jumbled completely out of order, it would be almost impossible to establish the context and importance of a particular letter within the overall emotional and historical narrative of that soldier's harrowing experience. You see, the sequence is literally just as vital as the documents themselves. Original order matters because it preserves existing relationships and the evidential significance gleaned from that context. On top of that, it reveals the creator's logic. If you understand how a creator accessed their own records, the collection becomes readily coherent. You are preserving their very thought process. But what happens when an archivist gets a collection that's been completely misfiled, or maybe disturbed during its active use before being transferred over? Well, archivists aren't left flat-footed here. They act kind of like detectives, using a process called functional analysis to restore that disturbed order. First, they identify the functions and activities of the collection's creator. Then, they determine the organization based on those functions, and finally, they use those clues to successfully reconstruct the accurate context of the records. That brings us to Section 4, the principle of provenance. This is the ultimate synthesis of the first two pillars we just covered. Provenance is the principle that a material's fundamental significance depends heavily on the context of its creation, its purpose, and its function. So the crucial point here is that this is the overarching philosophy that basically governs everything an archivist does. To truly wrap your head around provenance, you have to look at it like a big archival equation, combining our first two rules. Respect des fonds plus original order equals provenance. You simply cannot have true provenance without both keeping the creator's items externally isolated and maintaining their internal original sequence. Let's look at a really practical example. Imagine someone donates a collection of letters belonging to Juan and another separate collection belonging to Maria. Because these involve entirely different individuals, they absolutely must be stored in separate fonds to respect their distinct creators. And that, right there, covers respect des fonds. Next, within each of those separate conceptual containers, the letters of Juan and the letters of Maria will be stored following the exact sequence established by them, which is most likely the chronological dates the letters were written. So records of the same provenance are never mixed with different origins, and the original sequence is maintained. By storing them separately and in their original order, we perfectly demonstrate the successful application of provenance. Finally, let's head into Section 5, Reconstructing Our Past. So we have the rules down, but why does all this rigid methodology actually matter to the rest of us? Well, the power of the big three is that they are the very tools that safeguard the truth of our past. They allow us to accurately reconstruct and re-remember different historical events while highlighting specific, accurate narratives. By preserving the exact context, content, and structure, archives safeguard trustworthiness in the archival record, which is literally essential for preserving memory from really tenuous periods in history. Which brings us to a final thought. These aren't just academic concepts. They are reflections of human lives. If an archivist were handed the messy backs of your life today, your emails, your photos, your notes, what would your original orders say about you? Would they instantly understand your logic? Or would they need to do some serious functional analysis? It's definitely something fascinating to think about as you consider the footprints we all leave behind.